introduce approaches and tools that can help synthesize and prioritize adaptation indicators for progressive reporting, and also to share examples on how established domestic systems have been used to monitor and evaluate the implementation and reporting of adaptation actions and processes. So we are going to go through the agenda for today. Like I've already introduced the webinar, and I will be moderating this meeting. We are going to receive welcome remarks from our colleague Susan Conrad, and then after we shall have a presentation from our colleague Gift Gewona from UNEP, who will be taking us through introduction of the NAP processes and the establishment of M&E systems as part of the NAP process, but also linking it with how it is very beneficial for countries that have these systems, how it makes it easier for them to report. We shall have a session on question and answer, and then we shall also have a presentation from my colleague Slajana, who will be speaking about approaches for developing M&E systems and adaptation indicators for progressive reporting. And also we shall have an opportunity to discuss about that or ask any questions. And then we shall have presentation from Liberia, from Serbia, and also from Namibia, from Malawi, if possible, because they were still in transit from Hope. I hope they'll be able to join us, but they had confirmed. So we shall have a question and answer session on that, and then we shall have our closing feedback survey. So maybe before we can go to another session, I will request that we switch on our cameras to take a photo. Kindly switch on your cameras. Maybe I will take the first one. Yeah, thank you. I'll take the second one now. Thank you for those of you who have been able to switch on your cameras. So we shall go to the next session where we shall be receiving a welcome remarks from Susan. Yeah, Susan, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much, Sheila. Yeah, good day, colleagues. A very warm welcome also from my side to this webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Susanne, and I'm a colleague of Sheila's in the CBGSP project. And yeah, thanks so much for joining us on this important webinar on monitoring and evaluation of adaptation. We apologize for omitting the learning part. When we are adhering here to the MPGs, which still refer to the M&E and not to the M&E and learning, basically. But the learning is, of course, an important element. At the time when the MPGs were adopted, it was still only monitoring and evaluation. Yes, many of you probably also just returned from COP or are still returning, where the indicators under the global goal on adaptation were extensively discussed and finally agreed on. The so-called WLAM adaptation indicators under the UEE framework for global climate resilience, and this includes. Allow me to put on camera. Yeah, there was something with the camera. We're trying to allow the camera of all. Apologies, Babu. Yes. So the indicators have been approved for most of the targets that are under the UEE framework for global climate resilience, and this includes also the targets in relation to the iterative adaptation cycle, which in turn includes an element on monitoring, evaluation, and learning. Namely, that by 2030, all parties have designed, established, and operationalized a system for monitoring, evaluation, and learning for the national adaptation adaptation efforts and have built the required institutional capacity to fully implement the system. And here 5 indicators have been agreed. Adaptation is, of course, a very important area for most developing countries and African countries in particular, which can also be seen in the first BTRs, where most countries have actually included the adaptation component, even though it's a voluntary reporting element. According to the BTR synthesis report by the UNFCCC that was published not so long ago, 90% of parties actually included an adaptation component in their first BTR, which is a really, really important sign and really shows that it's of high priority to parties. And out of these 90%, actually 84% of parties included information on their planned or current M&E systems and approaches. So this includes, for instance, approaches for the evaluation of adaptation projects, national M&E tracking systems that are in place, any tools, methodologies, and indicators parties are using. So parties are really providing information on their M&E approaches. But at the same time, and this is really important, 54% of parties also list M&E as a key challenge. And those challenges relate to the lack of frameworks, the lack of baseline data, lack of technical expertise, the lack of a national M&E system overall, and also difficulties in tracking adaptation outcomes across different sectors. So this is a high challenge that countries are facing. And in line with this, many countries, or most of the countries, also list M&E as a capacity building need. So the development of robust M&E systems for adaptation actions and for quantifying impacts is listed as one of the most reported capacity building needs across all BTRs. So this really shows that M&E is important, but it's also really, really, complex. It's resource intensive, it's challenging, it's a really daunting exercise to establish M&E systems. But it's so essential to be able to track any adaptation outcomes and to really make sense of adaptation, basically. The reporting comes afterwards, and the reporting in the BTRs is, of course, the next steps, but really having an understanding of adaptation progress at the national level, this is the key, basically, the key outcome of an M&E system. Yeah, and we hope that today's webinar will shed a bit of light on some of the challenges. Of course, it will only provide some inspiration and some hints. I can't provide full support to countries on establishing M&E systems, but we will also hear from a UNEP colleague on the NAP process, where most countries also establish M&E system as part of the NAP process. So yeah, wishing us all an insightful webinar, and really encourage you to engage and ask questions, and we hope we can have good discussions on this very important topic. Back to you, Sheila.
Yeah, thank you so much, Susan, for the very well encouraging opening remarks. At this moment, I will take this opportunity to welcome Gift, our colleague from UNEP, who will be making a presentation about the NAP process and the establishment of M&E system within the NAP processes, and how this helps to create a very good foundation and background for tracking the M&E indicators for adaptation. The floor is yours, Gift.
Thank you so much, Sheila. And thank you so much to the first speaker for setting the stage for us now to take a deep dive into the NAP issues and the challenges that are likely to be encountered in trying to report for the NAP. So let me try and share my screen. I'm struggling with audio, so I'm using 2 audio devices. I hope this works. Let me see. Let me know when you are able to see my screen.
Yes, we are able to see your screen. Just
thank you very
maybe
much.
You could put it in full screen.
Let me see. That should work. So as this comes on your screens, by way of introduction, my names are Gift Gevona. I work for UNEP, Climate Change Adaptation Unit, and I'm responsible for implementation of NAP projects portfolio in Anglophone speaking countries, mostly in Africa. And that portfolio is headed by our unit chief, Jessica Troni. Maybe some of you already have met her. And looking at the slides from the first presenter, it's true. You can see that many countries are facing challenges in reporting adaptation because it's not an easy one to track, but definitely I hope this today's webinar unlocks some of the challenges and tries to see how we could report on adaptation. But first, before we go there, let me just introduce the program that we are doing in supporting the countries come up with the national adaptation plans. And this process basically is to try and help countries to identify, prioritize, and implement medium and actually long-term climate adaptation strategies. It's an iterative framework, and it is country-driven. And was established under the Cancun Adaptation Framework back in 2010, and then was reinforced by the Paris Agreement way back in 2015. Some of the key elements for this is that we realize countries are at different stages in implementing their adaptation processes. Not all countries are at the same level. And so realizing this, some of the key features is that this is country-driven. Each nation is supposed to tailor its NAP to local climate. Sorry, I lost. Sorry, I realized I dropped off a little bit. Hope you can hear me now.
We can hear you again.
I hear you.
Yes. Sorry for that. Let me
Yes,
go back to let me go back to my slide. I think something happened. Let me try and recover that. Yes. So it's supposed to be participatory and inclusive, whereby it involves all the key stakeholders, including local government, ministry, department, and agencies, civil society, the private sector, and communities. And one thing to note is that it's an iterative process. As new scientific information and baseline data keeps coming in, countries now also are able to update their national adaptation plans. So we are working with a 5-year horizon for our NAPs. And it also needs to integrate with the existing national adaptation plans and global framework, SDGs, the Paris Agreement, and now the global goal on adaptation, whose indicators were discussed in the just concluded COP in Belém. And it's a very transparent process, which needs to promote accountability and knowledge sharing across board and across all the stakeholders. So yeah, these NAPs are just strategic frameworks, which are basically addressing climate change impacts. And one of the most important thing in our NAP process is having a robust monitoring and evaluation framework, which ensures that adaptation actions are not only effective, but they're also sustainable and equitable. And to monitor this NAP process, we need to at least have a good set of indicators, which will ensure that we track progress, measure outcomes, and also they are also useful to inform policy adjustments. Now, let me see, I can't go to my next screen. Maybe it's frozen. I hope you can still hear me.
We can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I think my screen was frozen. So having talked about indicators, then what are the objectives of having those indicators and NAP actually monitoring the evaluation framework? And should include learning aspect as well. And we need to assess whether the adaptations are working and for whom, because the idea is to build resilience for the communities. So is it working? How do we track progress? And also, it also enables us to provide evidence for policy refinement and resource allocation, looking at the vulnerability of communities across board how are governments able to allocate resources accordingly to be able to take care of climate change issues and, of course, adaptation in the long run. And so it also helps us align national adaptations with the global frameworks, the Paris Agreement, UNFCCCs, and also the global goal on adaptation in terms of how we are moving with progress. But the most central part of it is to ensure that gender issues and social inclusion is included in adaptation tracking. As we know, there are those communities that are most vulnerable to climate change, women, and those classes of people that are vulnerable. So we don't have much time, so I will just try and shorten my presentation. So in tracking adaptation, what kind of types of indicators are we looking at? We've got basically 5 broad indicators, and we've got what we are calling input indicators, which measures resources allocated in terms of budget, examples of budget for climate adaptation, staff that have been trained, farmers that have been trained, etc. Then there are process indicators, which are helpful in tracking implementation steps. For instance, just on the basic level, the number of adaptation projects initiated. Then we have output indicators, which gives us immediate results of actions. For instance, acres of land forested, irrigation systems installed, early warning systems that have been installed to try and address the vulnerabilities and stuff. Then we have outcome indicators, which are medium term. Having implemented those outputs, do we have a reduction in climate vulnerability to farmers? Are they more susceptible or not to the vagaries of climate change, and how are they adapting? Then impact level indicators are these long-term changes, e.g. improved resilience of the national economy and the reduced disasters and losses. So those are the types of indicators that countries and stakeholders can look at and see at what level their contribution is at. But at the end of the day, we are looking at impact indicators. Reducing the overall impact of the climate change and extreme climate patterns to the community. Now, we also have tried to group this into key indicator areas, like broadly categorizing them into these 5 broad categories. Like we have got those that are addressing climate resilience, e.g. reduction in climate-related losses in agriculture, in infrastructure, etc. Capacity building, number of institutions with adaptation strategies, maybe at the Ministry of Environment or Ministry of Finance, what kind of adaptation strategies do they have there? And then we have community level adaptation. These are household, including household access to, say, climate smart technologies. Nowadays, we're talking about climate smart agriculture, and also looking at the indigenous knowledge that is helpful in adaptation. Also, there is an issue of gender, how women are participating, and marginalized groups in adaptation programs, and also those that deal with policy integration, e.g. inclusion of adaptation in national development plans, etc.
Я подключилась.
Yes, is that a question?
Да, подключилась это, сейчас закрыла и звук, и этот слушаю.
Sorry, I can't hear you well. Is that a question?
I think you can go ahead. Maybe someone is, the microphone is not.
Sorry for that. So some of the challenges were mentioned with the first speaker, and I think to Susan, and it's true. The challenges do exist, and one of the 3 big challenges here is the linking local actions to national or global targets. For instance, how do we link the local adaptation of efforts that are happening at the community level with the broad framework of global goal on adaptation? And how do we ensure that indicators capture long-term resilience rather than short-term outputs? So those are the issues that needs to be factored in the design. And one of the issues that we are also encountering, especially in the NAP process, is on the availability of data and quality. You realize that, for instance, if you go to at the national level, most of the data is held by the meteorological organizations. And for instance, if you're looking for rainfall patterns for the last 50 or maybe 30, 40 years, so that you're able to model for the future, in order to be able to plan adaptation programs, you find that that data is missing. And if there is that data, there are actually some gaps in that data. All right, I'll speak briefly now on the global goal on adaptation, which basically is a framework that was established under the Paris Agreement and is aligned with the NAP process, whereby we want to strengthen resilience, enhance adaptive capacity, and reduce vulnerability to climate change worldwide. And so the global goal on adaptation has this set of indicators across different sectors that countries are able to pick and see which ones are relevant at their national, or contextualize those ones at that level. And this originated in as a result of the Paris Agreement on Article 7. And then also there is which created the global goal on adaptation as counterpart to the global goal on mitigation. And the main purpose actually is to collectively improve adaptation efforts to sustainable development and aligning it with the 1.5 degrees temperature limit or reduction in that matter. So unlike mitigation, which can be tracked with emissions data, as I had already mentioned earlier, adaptation progress is multidimensional and requires diverse indicators. So the key elements of the global goal on adaptation is adaptive capacity. It entails building skills, institutions, and systems to respond to climate risks. Building resilience, we've talked about that, strengthening communities, economies, and ecosystems against shocks. Vulnerability reduction, targeting the most climate-exposed populations and sectors. And in the recently consolidated COP30, it's covering areas like food security, water, health, ecosystems, and infrastructure. What will be the main challenges of implementing the GGA, or Global Goal on Adaptation? It's measurement complexity. And so adaptation cannot be measured by a single metric. And this relates to the challenges that were presented by the first speaker in terms of how do we measure this. So it's because that you cannot use a single metric to measure this. And also matters finance. Needs are rising, countries' needs are rising, but adaptation finance is falling short. And so there has to be ways to mobilize adaptation finance from non-traditional sources, including the private sector, if we are to attain this goal. Well, equity concerns, vulnerable communities often lack resources despite being the most affected, which is true. And success depends on political will, funding, and inclusive governance. So that is briefly on global goal and adaptation. With regards to current developments, moderator, I don't know how many minutes I have. I've spoken too much. On the current developments, well, there is the Glasgow and Sharm el-Sheikh work program, which launched and operationalized the GGA. And the recently held COP, which concluded last week, negotiators agreed on a consolidated set of indicators that covers a diverse range of sectors. And these are the sectors that I had already mentioned, that countries can be able to pick specific indicators and contextualize them at the national level or at the country level and see how they can be able to monitor this. Regional perspectives. UNEP's global goal on adaptation has been gathering input from Africa, Asia Pacific, America to shape the framework. So this is ongoing work. I know the next speaker will be speaking about approaches for NAP monitoring and evaluation framework. So I wouldn't dwell much on this because I saw that in the agenda, but maybe I just build on this because we are trying to help countries develop a robust monitoring and evaluation framework to track adaptation activities at the national level. So I will speak only of 4, and then maybe my next speaker, if I'm not wrong, if I'm wrong, you correct me, will be able to expound on the rest because they are number. So we can use the logical framework approach, whereby we build hierarchy of objectives, inputs, and outcomes, and it defines clear indicators at each level, say at output, at outcome, and at objective level. We have very clear indicators and what needs to be measured. And this ensures alignment between national adaptation goals and measurable results. An example that I've given there, you can see, budgeted allocated to a specific adaptation component will be an input. So if we are talking about irrigation, that will be an output. And if there is a reduced crop losses, that will be an outcome. The other approach is the theory of change, whereby we identify assumptions and risks along the way. And basically, these are useful for complex multi-sector adaptation strategies, and these map how adaptation's actions lead to resilience outcomes. For instance, if you train your farmers to adopt climate-smart practices, we're going to have improved food security, and how that relates to health is that we have improved community health. So it's looking at how there's a linkage between outcomes and outputs. Then there's the results-based management framework, which will involve all the stakeholders, government, civil society, etc. And the core thing is that it ensures gender equality and including the marginalized groups in this. The good thing with this approach is that it builds ownership and legitimacy of the M&D system. And this can be, for instance, an example would be on reporting on adaptation targets that are linked to SDGs by various government departments and the civil society at large. And then we have those participatory and inclusive approaches where all the stakeholders are put together to design the indicators. It ensures gender equality and social inclusion, of course, but the most important thing that it builds ownership. So it's a multi-stakeholder consultative process that ensures that all the stakeholders are brought on board to agree on specific indicators. How we are doing it, for instance, in our NAP process is that while looking at the sectoral targets and indicators, we put the relevant ministries, departments, and agencies in a workshop, and we brainstorm in terms of what indicators we should look at, which are the priority adaptation actions that needs to be factored in each of the sectors. And then from the priority adaptation actions, how do we measure progress? What indicators should we be looking for? So I just wanted to speak briefly on this, but I know my next speaker will be speaking on these approaches. In conclusion, I think I've overspent my 15 minutes. I would want to say that NAP monitoring and evaluation indicators or adaptation indicators will be essential for tracking adaptation progress and will ensure accountability and guiding future investments. And for you to have a strong NAP monitoring and evaluation system, it requires an iterative learning. It has to be inclusive, and it has to be aligned with the global frameworks. As I already mentioned, the global goal and adaptation has a set of indicators at different sectors that countries can be able to align to and see how they develop their robust monitoring and evaluation framework, which will help them now report to the issues of global goal and adaptation, but also for the CBT projects in terms of how are they reporting on adaptation. I would want to stop there, and thank you so much for your time. And if there are questions, we'll be glad to take them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Gift, for that very rich information about M&E for NAP and the whole process. It was really very rich, and I will expect that we have some maybe questions from different participants here so that they can be able to maybe ask for more information on especially the approaches, some of the existing working systems that you have been able to encounter during your work. So the floor is open for questions. So Dr. Raymond, kindly go ahead. Dr. Raymond, can you hear me? Please go ahead.
Mr. Raymond, you are muted. Please unmute yourself.
Or maybe he can use the chat box. I will address the question just in case he has an audio issue, like on my end.
Okay. I hope there shouldn't be any. Okay, I can see something in the chat, so let me go ahead and read the chat. So we have Susan asking, any countries here currently in the process of developing a national adaptation plan or have already developed a NAP? Kindly put those answers in the chat. I can see someone from who is working with Senegal saying that they have an ongoing process on the NAP. Thank you so much for that information. Like I had mentioned, we have Asia and the caucus in the house. In this webinar, and we also have our colleague Silajana, who is the coordinator for Euro-Asia. So we have a lot to share across the other networks. So please feel free to share. It is very important. I can see Dr. Raymond is saying, thank you so much for this. So the RBM and the participatory approaches are similar. I think that is your question, Gift, about the approaches that you mentioned. So Gift, you can go ahead and answer.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, more or less, it may be regarded as similar, but it's slightly different. But yeah, at the end of the day, similar because it involves stakeholder consultation approaches, but now the tracking element is the one that is different. Because for results-based management, say, for instance, in an institution, it could be tied to a unit's performance, and they are supposed to report on it at the end, maybe say, of a reporting cycle. But for participatory approaches, everyone is there giving ideas in terms of how this should be monitored, but it is not tied to, for instance, reporting in a department. It's approaching the various stakeholders, gathering the inputs, and then prioritizing all the indicators. I hope that answers your question. I saw also something on countries that have completed their NAP. Allow me to say that. So Zimbabwe has completed its NAP, and I think Nepal and several countries are also about to complete their NAP process. We have Malawi, and I think I saw a speaker from Malawi, Golivati. I think he was just to come later. So they are also in the process of concluding their NAP. So many other countries this year will be at least way ahead in concluding their NAP. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much for that information. We apologize if there are any sound issues, any mute issues, because Dr. Raymond says he's not able to speak, but I can see, I tried to open the meeting as much as possible. Apologies about that. Yes, hello? Yes, hello. We can hear you now.
I'm using my colleague's laptop now. So I just wanted to say that as Zimbabwe, we're actually in the process of developing the institutional arrangements for ensuring that We develop our NAP indicators. We've done that. So we have developed the NAP indicators. We have trained district officials for them to be able to train data and also the data providers. And we have developed a digital tool for them then to be able to provide that data on a digital tool for each of the indicators. And they've now given us the data sets which we're actually utilizing. So for our BTR2, we hope that we should be able to use that data set to be able to measure our monitoring and evaluation framework in terms of how we are progressing towards adaptation programming. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Maybe we shall also reach out to also understand more about that data tool and how it is evolving and how it will be helping to track, because I think it's to the interest of all of us to know how we are building those systems for sustainable tracking of adaptation indicators. Thank you so much for sharing, and we shall reach out even for bilateral sharing, and also we can organize a webinar for you to take us through how your system is working so that we can learn something. Thank you so much. Do we have anyone else who would like to ask any question to Gift or provide some more information on how they are progressing on what he presented, how they are linking the NAP process with BTR reporting? That would be very interesting for us to learn from you. So in case we do not have, I would like to introduce my colleague Slajana to take us through the next presentation on approaches for developing M&E systems and adaptation indicators for progressive reporting. So Slajana, kindly take on the floor.
Thank you very much, Sheila. So my name is Slajana Bundalo, and I'm the network coordinator for Eurasia within the CBIT GSP, but also I'm the adaptation person within our team. So I believe that I can provide you a broader picture of the establishment of the M&E framework in case that you have NAP or not. Maybe you have some other adaptation, national adaptation strategy or plan or sectoral plan. So this concept is more or less universal and can be applied for any planning exercise in any other areas, but now, of course, we will focus on your adaptation process. So also, I will try to avoid some overlaps with the previous speaker, with Mr. Gevona. So also this presentation that I will share in the second, can serve you like a short guidance on how what approaches you can use for developing of the M&E systems and adaptation indicators for reporting. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen, but it's not in full.
Okay, it will be in the full screen just in the second. Okay. Can you see it now? Yes, probably yes. Yeah, so let's start a bit from the beginning to see how and where M&E fits into your adaptation process. So these slides illustrates the full cycle of implementation of climate adaptation strategies, from initial assessments to planning, implementation, and learning. And let's go through each briefly. In the planning phase, we just began with assessments. We understanding climate risk vulnerabilities, and it's important here to identify your priority areas. That's the step, actually, initial step in any planning process, and also in planning your adaptation. So these steps are fundamental. They set actually direction and ensure that your interventions are context-specific and evidence-based. So when go to the implementation phase, there the adaptation actions are carried out. This is where monitoring and evaluation actually came into the picture. So it's important to understand the distinction between these two. In short, just to say that monitoring is a continuous process that provides regular information on your interventions, while evaluation, in the other hand, is conducted at the specific point of the time. So within this also adaptation process, which is actually cyclical in its nature, we have a very important step, let's say, which is a learning process. So both monitoring and evaluation feed and provide you information that you learn from. So this is the critical part of the adaptation cycle, since by learning on what we do, we can refine and adjust our approaches, scale up some successful interventions, and also we can avoid repeating some maybe mistakes and not so successful activities. So while in general monitoring keeps us on track during the implementation, evaluation helps us to understand the value and impact of our adaptation efforts. So together, they ensure that adaptation is not just implemented, but that is also effective and responsive to changing conditions in directions that we actually wish. So just in short, to make a clearer distinguishment between monitoring and evaluation, as said, monitoring is continuous and day-to-day process, so it focuses on short-term results and immediate effects. So also through monitoring, we document process, track inputs, outputs, alerts, some issues or maybe achievements, etc. And monitoring is basically a self-assessment tool. So the team that is carrying out adaptation process is one responsible for monitoring. Monitoring links also activities and resources to objectives and translates those objectives into performance indicators, sets targets, and collects data to compare actual results with the targets. In the other hand, as said, the evaluation is periodic, so it takes place during the important milestones, like in the midterm, at the end of the project, or maybe sometimes years later after completion of the project. So basically, evaluation looks at the long-term results and impacts, and it's closer to your adaptation goals set. So it provides deep analysis of achievements, highlights some most important accomplishments, and also provides recommendations for improvements for the next adaptation cycle. So unlike monitoring, evaluation is usually conducted externally, and it asks why intended results were or were not achieved. So in simple words, monitoring asks, are we on track? While evaluation asks, did we achieve what we intended and why? So monitoring provides the data, while evaluation interprets that data to generate lessons and guide your future adaptation planning within its next cycle. So Now, I will walk you through the key steps for establishing a robust monitoring and evaluation system for climate adaptation. So within this framework, the countries, it can help countries to track progress, learn from experience, and make informed decisions to strengthen resilience and to better cope with the climate change. So during the step one, it's important to understand your national context. So what are your to analyze what are your key climate risks and adaptation challenges related to these risks? Are there some barriers that preventing effective adaptation? Also here, we need to review some existing development policies, strategies, and identify the adaptation targets already outlined in the national strategies plans, others than NAP. And this is important to ensure that our M&E system is grounded in your real world, in your real cases, and in your real situation. In next step, we define the adaptation goal or multiple goals that we want to achieve. So these should be shared across the sectors and align with the national strategies like NAP and other climate strategies and plans that include adaptation. So also here, it's necessary to identify the pathways to reach these goals, including existing policies and plans. Within the next step, we are defining the purpose and focus of our M&E framework. Actually, we have to answer here, what exactly do we want to measure with our M&E framework? Are we tracking effectiveness or implementation, funding or available funds provided for adaptation, or maybe we measure changes in adaptive capacities? Also, here we have to define who will use the results. Some sectoral experts or planners, local authorities, or maybe in the case of reporting, international stakeholders. So this all determines what data we collect and how do we present it. So we also here decide whether to monitor climate risks, policy progress, program outcomes, and also adaptation finance flow. So within the next step, we are identifying indicators to track adaptation. So what are the indicators? They are actually tools that helps us to measure the change in our adaptation process. So they must be specific, observable, measurable, available, etc. So here we can include output indicators, outcome indicators, and impact indicators. So also quantitative and qualitative indicators are important, since with the figures and numbers, we can tell a part of the story, but also some context and experience with qualitative indicators, we can measure or describe progress. Within the next step, we are identifying data sources and stakeholders that will be included in your adaptation process. So once that we know what to measure, we must identify where data will come from and who will collect it. And this step involves engaging our vast variety of the stakeholders from the ministries, different agencies, in some cases, also local authorities and other data providers. Here it's essential to ensure data is collected, stored, and analyzed consistently and transparently. And very difficult at the end is to operationalize, make it functional, monitoring and evaluation system, and make it to serve for the decision-making, informed decision-making. So here we move from design to action. At this point, we prepare and present the M&E plan and also budget for the decision makers. So here also is important to inform and establish administrative structure and legal basis for implementation of your adaptation actions, measures, policies, etc., etc. So this step ensures that M&E system is not just a concept, but actually a functioning tool that supports real-time decision-making and long-term adaptation planning. So just a bit about adaptation indicators. What we mean by adaptation indicators in the context of the monitoring evaluation. So monitoring and evaluation refers to a structured system of indicators. So M&E system is the structure of the indicators. So these indicators help countries to systematically analyze the results and impacts of adaptation measures, actions, and your adaptation process in overall. So also they provide feedback on how effective our decision-making process are, whether our strategies are working, and where adjustments in that process may be needed. Also, it's important to mention that in case of some indicators, they have a dual role. They are also essential for risk and vulnerability assessments, which is very often starting point for planning your adaptation cycle. Also, just to say that for establishment of the M&E system to be to function effectively, there must be established legal framework in place. So also equally important is a clear definition of your institutional responsibilities. So who is doing what, who coordinates, how coordination is ensured, etc., etc. So also each indicator we use must be clearly linked with your adaptation goal that you want to support. So that ensures relevance, coherence, and ability to track progress of your adaptation process. So since Mr. Gevona provided already categories and types of the adaptation indicators, I will skip these slides and go directly to the one structure example of the indicators structure. So this is from international practice, one example on how adaptation indicators can be structured to reflect a clear results chain from overall and down to specific measurable indicators. So as I said, it reflects recent practice, but this is a simple overview that just can help you think systematically about how each level of intervention contributes to the broader adaptation objective. So at the top level, we establish the national adaptation goals. That can be enhanced adaptive capacity, for example, enhanced adaptive capacity of communities and resilience of natural ecosystems to climate change. So as you can see, this is the long-term vision that we are aimed toward, and all subsequent outcomes, outputs, and indicators should be aligned with it. So at the outcome level, the first outcome under this goal can be enhanced resilience of the agriculture production and distribution systems for climate change. So this outcome narrows the focus to a specific sector, here agriculture, and defines what resilience looks like in that context. I selected here agriculture since in many adaptation plans and reports, adaptation is recognized as one of the most vulnerable sectors when it comes to the adaptation. Then at the output level, to achieve this outcome, one of the key output can be climate resilient, sensitive agriculture policies, plans, and programs formulated. So this reflects on tangible deliverables, so policy instruments that integrate climate consideration. And here we come to the indicators level, which are actually used to measure progress toward this output. So we see here a mix of qualitative and quantitative indicators here, such as one can be climate change responsive agriculture policies, plans, budgets developed and implemented. And this tracks both formulation and implementation. Then another one can be a number of climate change responsive agriculture projects formulated and implemented, a numeric count for monitoring. Then climate change actions like DRR performance monitoring indicators developed and implemented, and etc., etc. So this structure illustrates how we can build a coherent monitoring and evaluation framework that connects national goals with sectoral actions and measurable results. So just a bit about global goal on the adaptation, which is actually a collective commitment under Paris Agreement that represents a shared vision of the global adaptation efforts. So as Mr. Gevona said, the global goal for adaptation aims to achieve three key outcomes: enhance adaptive capacity, strengthen resilience, and reduce vulnerability. And looking at broader purpose, global goal on adaptation is about ensuring that all countries, regardless of their development status, can contribute to sustainable development and respond adequately to growing impacts of the climate change. That's the global ambition, but one that must be translated into national actions supported by robust monitoring and evaluation systems at the national level. So also I will skip this since Mr. Gevona also informed us about the context of the global goal on adaptation indicators discussed at the COP30. And here draft indicator areas. Just to say here that As we know, within this drafted adaptation indicators for global goal of adaptation, over 100 of indicators have been proposed to track progress under the global goal of adaptation. And that fact actually reflects complexity of adaptation, but also the huge challenge of narrowing down to a manageable and meaningful set of the indicators. Why common indicators matter? They are essential for comparability of adaptation processes across the countries, as they allow a global community to measure collective progress, identify gaps, and ensure transparency. Without common indicators, it would be very difficult to assess whether the global community is truly advanced toward adaptation goals set under the Paris Agreement. So these draft areas and indicators, as you already may be informed, they are still under the negotiation, but in this point, they represent an important step towards operationalizing the global goal of adaptation and building and sharing framework for adaptation monitoring, aligning the adaptation actions, and also for tracking and reporting global progress of for adaptation. Just at the end, one interesting table for you in the context of the reporting your adaptation in the BTR, since this is very challenging for many countries. And this is a framework where I have put context of draft global goal of adaptation indicators to ETF or BTR reporting requirements. I will not go through all of this, but here you have side by side global goal of adaptation indicators area or sectors, some examples of proposed indicators, and ETF potential alignment and gaps and needs for alignment with the ETF framework and the adaptation BTR section. Just for the end, to say that structuring of the robust monitoring and evaluation system for adaptation is not easy task, and it's not quick. You cannot achieve it fastly. It's the process. So my suggestion would be, since many countries are struggling with the data gaps, with institutional arrangements for collecting data for adaptation, etc. So I would suggest you to start from what you have. So for information that you already have at disposal, most of the countries have they tracking climate parameters, and that is something that can be your starting point for tracking adaptation and for making projections for maybe some future impacts. So also, when it comes to reporting on adaptation within the BTRs, I just can say that that's one of the biggest challenges for the countries. But it is important to stress that whether you have or not have developed an M&E system for tracking your adaptation, you should state what is the status, even if you did not start yet with development M&E system. You should state that, and for any adaptation measures, actions, developed policies, etc., you should inform that within your BTR adaptation section. So I will stop here, and thank you very much. I'm available for any comments and maybe some of your questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tilajana, for compiling that rich information to share with us today. I think it's really, really helpful. And I think I will allow participants in this webinar to really maybe ask for more clarification or maybe references or what support they might need to structure it in the way you have really presented it. It sounds extremely simple. I don't know how it can also be domesticated at national level to really bring it out like that for future and progressive reporting. So the floor is open for any comments, questions, and Selajana is available. So also in the chat, Susan has been able to share the adopted indicators under the global goal on adaptation. You can follow the link and read about those adopted indicators so that you can domesticate some that are appropriate to your national circumstances. So the floor is still open. I would really want to hear from you, your perception about how it will be how it has been made very easy for you to adopt at national level. Yeah. So I can see someone is talking about interesting information that came out from COP. Do we know when the global adaptation goal will be finalized and agreed? Yeah, Selajana, over to you.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you, Georgia, for the question. As of now, nobody knows. So they are still not finalized. They are still under draft and they are still not officially adopted. But what I can say from perspective of adaptation, national adaptation experts and countries that's trying to track their adaptation process, that these once adopted can help them to establish more robust national M&E frameworks and to reflect or to rely on already defined adaptation indicators, and that will allow them on one more easier way to better align with global goal of adaptation. And for international community, that's of the crucial importance, since we will be able to assess adaptation process achievements and maybe some not good results to inform future steps and to improve our adaptation process globally. So thank you. I know that the answer is not very clear about the finalization, but when they agreed about the adaptation indicators, we will inform you and we will share a list of agreed indicators and adopted indicators with you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Selajana. So the presentations and the video recording, they will all be shared through our platform. Kindly always check on our platform very often. We usually have very good materials for you. But also to add on that Selajana is our in-house focal point for adaptation. So anytime you have any question, you need any clarification or you need any support, she can always create time to have that with you. And of course, in next year's work plan, we have a mutual learning. So for countries that are interested in learning on how they can reporting on adaptation, we shall be preparing those sessions that can help you fast track or accelerate the reporting. That will be very good. So if we do not have any other comments, so I have a comment from Sibele. What is considered best practice for gender and inclusion in ML, that is monitoring and evaluation and learning frameworks? Should gender and vulnerable group consideration be mainstreamed across all indicators? And if so, what practical methods can we apply to ensure that disaggregation and reporting are meaningful and not just symbolic? So over to you, she's from Eswatini. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Very interesting question. Of course, I did not speak here about the integration of the gender issues and the issues of all vulnerable groups in the M&E system. But as I said, you should start from what you have. Probably you have some statistic about participation of the maybe first labor force distribution, then statistics in the agriculture, how many women are working there, how many men. So gender disaggregated data, that is something that you can start with. But for the next stage of the mainstreaming gender or incorporating and defining indicators for gender for adaptation, the broader inclusion of the stakeholders is necessary. There we not just track how many women participated at some capacity building events or awareness raising events, but we also track what inputs or what suggestions women or some other vulnerable groups are suggested for instance, in this case, for adaptation. So we include a quality of intervention in context of the gender. Also, we can distinguish this between men and women. What are suggestions or interventions by women, and what are interventions from men's side? So this is something that you have can consider while establishing your M&E indicators. As I said, first you can start from just disaggregated data, and also you can make some conclusions out of that, but quality inputs can be very important in the context of your adaptation process. So you have to consider that also when you framing your M&E system and indicators. Thank you. I believe that I've answered your questions. Also, if we don't have any more questions, just one intervention, since Mrs. Anna from Serbia is short with time. She asked if she can present Serbia's situation and achievements with M&E first. So if that's possible, Sheila, please invite Mrs. Anna from Serbia first. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Selajana, for that. So I will invite her, but there's information coming that the indicators have been adopted now, the global adaptation indicators. And colleagues, we have more links to the Excel sheets. So please go ahead and click on the links so that you can get more information and download the documents that you might need from those sites. Yeah, thank you so much, participants who are sharing information. I can see Theo from Seychelles. I can see Mr. Babu. That is very good. Kindly share any other information you may have so that we can strengthen our reporting. So I will take this opportunity to invite Ms. Anne from Serbia. Serbia is in Euro-Asia network. So we have been privileged to have a cross-network event where we are sharing information, and we don't take this for granted. So Ms. Anne, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for this very nice and kind opportunity for me to represent the activities of our Ministry of Environmental Protection, which is in charge for the adaptation to climate change in regard to the activities in adaptation to climate change. Can I share my screen, or how will I, or you have my presentation?
Kindly share your screen.
But
Yes,
I cannot share.
I have it. I can share it.
Yeah,
If
please.
it's easier for
Because
you.
I,
Yeah. Of course. Just a second. So can you see the slide, the initial slide?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
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 Can we go to the full screen or I mean it can go this way also, whatever you
I'm
like.
on full screen now.
Okay. As I said, yeah, my name is Anna Repets and I'm head of adaptation to climate change unit within the Ministry of Environmental Protection. And today I will be speaking about the activities of our ministry in the field of adaptation to climate change, especially in regard to M&A system for adaptation to climate change. Next slide, please. First, can we go to the next slide, please?
This
Can
one?
you hear me?
Your presentation is not on. You have
It's
to
on the
put it
first
on
slide.
presentation mode, please. It's still on slide mode from my end.
I will stop now and try again.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Can you see now the full screen?
Yeah, I can see the full screen
Okay.
now.
Yes.
Let's go to the next slide.
Just a second. Okay.
Yeah,
This is.
this is the next slide. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, at the beginning, please let me tell you that the Republic of Serbia is suffering significant losses and damages caused by climate change. Within the period from 2000 to 2024, according to our latest NDC, the minimum material losses and damages resulting from weather and climate-related extreme weather events in our country, the Republic of Serbia, are estimated at about 10.45 billion euros. And this estimation also includes the preliminary analysis of roughly 1 billion euros attributed to damages and losses during only one summer, the summer of last year, when our Republic of Serbia was affected by extreme drought. And about 70% of all recorded damages and losses were caused by drought and high temperatures. Also, our country, the rate of increase of mean annual temperature in our country exceeds the global average warming trend. Over the last 5 years, compared to the reference period, which is 1961-1990, the mean temperature was higher as much as 2.5 degrees Celsius. And the climate change projections indicate that warming will continue until the end of the century, depending on, of course, greenhouse gas emission scenarios and Paris Agreement goals. But to add additional warming at about 5.8 degrees Celsius relative to reference period is expected. So just one information that climate change is alternating precipitation, annual distribution in our country, and distribution by intensity. And extreme precipitation events have become more frequent and intense, triggering floods and increasing the risk of land degradation. And this trend will continue. Okay, so next slide. So this is one illustrative slide that is telling more about what I was just saying, like with more words. So these were the photos from our country in the last several years. And in regard to adaptation to climate change and legal aspect, it is very important to highlight that Republic of Serbia has adopted the law on climate change in 2021. And this law prescribes the development of the climate change adaptation program, which was adopted in 2023, together with the action plan and the bylaw, which was kind of a basis for a setup for an M&A system, which was adopted in last year. Of course, it has also established the National Climate Change Committee, which serves as advisory body to the government, and which consists of the governmental institutions, ministries, also NGOs, local self-governments, academia, private sectors, and etc. Let me just mention, of course, the law on ratification of the UNFCCC and law on ratification of the Paris Agreement. Next slide. Before we continue to the M&A system of the Republic of Serbia, let me just highlight that the climate change adaptation is a process that is constantly ongoing because the climate is changing rapidly. So therefore, also in our climate change adaptation program, of course, there is a lot of, a large amount of information and data from science that is incorporated in the policy, for example, our climate change adaptation program, which enables the implementation of adaptation, which is there in practice. And in practice, with the implementation of adaptation measure, there is the resilience. Next slide. So the program, the climate change adaptation program of the Republic of Serbia has a vision that the Republic of Serbia is resilient to climate change, meaning that the system has been established to enable the sustainable adaptation process, which means that scientific knowledge about climate change is effectively integrated into policy and practice. The adaptation process is implemented from the national to the local level. Timely information and public education are provided to ensure that every individual is involved in the adaptation process. Therefore, because we all know that climate system is the most robust and the most complex natural system on our planet, the Nexus approach, meaning the atmosphere, earth surface, or land and water, is being applied for assessing the vulnerability and risk and determining adaptation measures within our adaptation program. Next slide. So these are the principles on which the climate change adaptation program is based on, and those principles are the same as the principles on which European Union's adaptation strategy is based on, which are smart implementation of adaptation, meaning that, as I said, the program has a strong scientific foundation. Then a systemic implementation of adaptation, meaning that adaptation is being implemented from a national to a local level and vice versa. And rapid implementation of adaptation, meaning that there was a selection of priority adaptation measures to be implemented as soon as possible because of the increasing damages and losses. Next slide. So I just wanted also to highlight that for the purposes of the development of climate change adaptation program, a new climate change analysis was conducted in accordance with the methodology of the 6th assessment report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So on this slide, you can see the short analysis of it. And as I mentioned, the Nexus air, water, soil Nexus approach within adaptation planning and the application of nature-based solutions concept. Next slide. So these are the sectors that were covered. Just a second, sorry. These are the sectors which are most vulnerable to adaptation to climate change in our country. These are agriculture, forestry, biodiversity, infrastructure, urbanism and urban development, energy, water resource, human health, and disaster risk reduction. Within the first action plan of the climate change adaptation program for the period 2024-2026, there are 25 adaptation measures. Next slide. So, this is about the monitoring and evaluation system for adaptation to climate change on national level of the Republic of Serbia. As I mentioned on the one of the previous slides, with the adoption of the bylaw, which is called regulation on the list of bodies and organizations responsible for implementing adaptation measures and the content and form of the reports on the implemented adaptation measures to adaptation to climate change, that this bylaw was adopted in December last year, our M&A system is set. And this M&A system of the Republic of Serbia for the adaptation to climate change contain the format and content of the reports, as well as the authorities and organizations responsible for the reporting. These reports contain information on implementation of adaptation measures within the adaptation program and action plan, climate change-related hazards and their impacts, for example, floods, droughts, hail, and etc., and losses and damages from it. Development and implementation of the policy documents in sectors that are most affected by climate change. And those are the sectors which I shown in the previous slide. And the development and implementation of the planning documents of autonomous province and local self-governments. Those reports are to be submitted every year, so annually, to our ministry starting from March this year. Next slide. And this is one of the products in our country in the field of adaptation to climate change, which we are kind to say mostly proud of. This is a Digital Climate Atlas of Serbia. Next slide. So the main purpose of the development of Digital Climate Atlas of Serbia was to support adaptation process in the Republic of Serbia. It was initiated and developed within the project Advancing Medium and Long-Term Adaptation Planning in the Republic of Serbia. The project was funded by Green Climate Fund. And this Digital Climate Atlas of Serbia was developed by Faculty of Physics from the University of Belgrade and is hosted on our ministry's website. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the Digital Climate Atlas of Serbia is an interactive online tool that provides the free access to climate information and climate data. It's completely free of charge. Anyone can download data that is needed. And those data can be in form of data, meaning like numbers, data and in the form of charts, diagrams, etc. So next slide, please. The main idea was to support the adaptation process, but also to be useful for a wide range of users. For example, local self-governments, governmental people, but also experienced users, for example, academia, researchers, etc. Next slide. So this is the quick overview what can be found in Digital Climate Atlas of Serbia platform. It has all relevant climate data for different climate periods, near future, by the end, middle of century and end of century, and also past. So it has observed data, climate data, and also projected climate data for RCP 4.5 and RCP 8.5 scenarios. Different data on spatial level is also there for the whole territory of the Republic of Serbia, for the administrative regions, for the municipality, and for the location. And it has more than 20, actually it has, I think, 26 various climate indices for the different periods, as I mentioned. And it is also important to highlight that the new data can be included and will be included in this, I believe, next year when this climate digital climate atlas will be more built. So next slide. As I mentioned, that these are climate data and variables, as you can see, for both observed and projected data, 4 essential and 22 climate indices, and this is the spatial grid and time range. Next slide. And as I mentioned before, the time series and all the data that are free of charge are there for the whole area, national area of the Republic of Serbia, and administrative regions, municipalities, and green points. Next slide. I also wanted to mention that there is a FAQ page in the Digital Climate Atlas of Serbia, where you can find all useful information, especially for users with less experience, where you can find more information about climate indices and all other data that are needed. So next slide. Thank you very much. That was my last slide. You can find here the emails that are relevant in the field of adaptation to climate change in the Republic of Serbia, where you can ask any question or anything that is needed where I can help you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. We are so grateful that you are able to share this very detailed information, especially about the system and how you are organized in the adaptation sector. But before I read for you some of the questions in the chat, I have just one or two. I need some clarification from your presentation. You mentioned disaster risk as one of the sectors. What is included in that sector, because I also see other sectors like agriculture, forestry. So maybe you can provide more clarification. And then I found that you have a very good collaboration with the university and they were able to even develop for you the system. Are they part of your coordination or collaborative institution, or under what circumstances did you engage them? Was it like hiring them as consultants? How will you make it sustainable for the update? I'm asking this because some countries are struggling for that. And maybe after that, I can also read for you some of the questions. There are like 2-3 questions in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Yeah, one of the horizontal sectors within our climate change adaptation program was the DRR sector, of course, meaning that we have one of the adaptation measures within the first action plan, which is for the period 2024 to 2026, is the upgrade of the existing methodology for the disaster risk assessment, to upgrade it in the terms that adaptation to climate change, for especially projected data in regard to adaptation to climate change, is to be incorporated within this DRR methodology. It is very important to highlight that the methodology for disaster risk assessment, which I'm telling you about, is to be applied from national to local level. Therefore, when this methodology, DRR methodology, is updated or uploaded, with the in terms to incorporate adaptation to climate change, it will be applied from the national to local level.
All right. All right. Yeah, thank you for that clarification. I think it's
Thank
very
you.
interesting. Yeah. Then maybe what you didn't respond to was about how you're engaging the university. But maybe I can see it is related with one of the questions in the chat. Someone would like to know if it's possible, he would be interested to get access to the law and legal, maybe legal instruments that you are using. Then someone was asking how many sectors are included in the NAP, how long do the NAP, okay, so that one was responded to, I think. Then how did you address evaluation in the regulation? Did you prescribe this exercise or it is covered elsewhere, like in the plan or in the strategy? If you have it, when is it due? Meaning, is it every 5 years or and in which period is it? Then someone is also asking, do you track also action plans and results in the digital tool? So those are some of the questions. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very complicated for me to answer all those questions at the same time. Maybe one of the questions was how did we engage the universities, right? Yeah, when as I mentioned, we have established the National Climate Change Committee within the law on climate change that was adopted in 2021. So the National Climate Change Committee is an advisory body to the government in its interministerial body. It has the representatives of all relevant ministries, but not only ministries, not only governmental people, but also academia, NGOs, local self-governments, and etc. So this advisory body serves to the government to advise the government in all the questions in regard to climate change, not only adaptation to climate change, but to climate change in general, but also the adaptation to climate change. Also, we have developed our climate change adaptation program within the project that was funded through the GCF, as I mentioned, and through the same project we have developed the Digital Climate Atlas of Serbia. But we are lucky to have the long-term, very good and very fruitful cooperation with the universities from our country, especially University of Belgrade and Faculty of Physics, which are there to assist us from the ministry within development of from the first national communication to the UNFCCC until this day. And not only national communication, but also NDCs. As I mentioned, we also have the loss and damage established there, and etc. So yeah, this cooperation with the university is there for, I don't know, almost 20 years.
Wow, that is very, very interesting. So maybe another question, do you also track action plans and results in the digital tool?
Just let me just find some questions here, sorry.
Okay.
Not updated. If possible, we could be interested to get access to the law and the legal context. Yes, you can find our law on climate change in our ministry's website. I will check, and if there is the law on climate change on English, I will send you a link. If not, I can send to Slađana the law on climate change in Word, so she can share it. It's not a problem.
Yes.
How many
yes,
sectors is
it's okay.
included in our NAP? Well, our NAP is has, I think, more than 10 sectors, something like that. And the NAP is for the period from 2023 to 2030, according to, of course, Paris Agreement. Hello, Georgia. You have a question. How did you address evaluation of the regulation? How did you prescribe the exercise that's plan and strategy? The regulation is there in the law on climate change, but eventually we are going to have a new law on climate change, probably next year or the year after that. And yeah. I'm not sure that I understand your question. If you can ask me again. Sorry.
Yeah, maybe
Do you track
someone-
action plans and results in digital tool? No. No. The digital tool, Digital Climate Atlas of Serbia, is there at this moment only for climate data. So we wanted to have climate data available for everyone, meaning not everyone, from every citizen in our country to have a free access to climate data in all the forms that I mentioned. All relevant sectors need to be included in lifespan. Yeah, I've also already answered the question of the lifespan. Yes, and if I didn't mention, we have adopted our NAP together with the first action plan that is from 2024 to 2026. But we are also now at this moment developing our second action plan of NAP that will be for the period 2027 to 2030. Did I answer all the question now?
Yes, you have answered all the questions. We really, really appreciate. Thank you so much for
Thank
the
you very
detailed
much.
presentation. And we are going to, if we have any country that needs to follow up, we shall get in touch with Slajana so that we can really get in touch with you, especially on how you are continuously collecting your data to update the system.
Definitely, yeah. And there is my email address on the last slide of my presentation. Please contact me anytime you need any information. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. So we are going now to hear from Malawi. The floor is open. Since time is running so fast, the presentations were so interesting, we could not stop anything. Kindly share with us how you are doing your adaptation, M&E, and then also how you are building systems.
Thank you, Shira, for giving me this opportunity. Unfortunately, my laptop. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think due to the internet, I will not be able to. I'll just turn on the camera for a few minutes.
Yes, I hear.
Just that people could relate the face to the one who's talking. Yeah, my name is Golivat Komani. I'm from Malawi. I work with the Environmental Affairs Department in the Ministry of Natural Resources, Energy and Mining. And I'm the desk officer for the NAP within the department. And I also work with my colleague. I support my colleague, Jervis, on matters to do with the BTR. So just to touch on how we are addressing issues of adaptation M&D. From the policy perspective, we have a national climate change management policy which has established a coordination structure to facilitate monitoring and reporting. And under that structure, we have the National Technical Committee and also the National Steering Committee. So both these committees are multi-sectoral. And we also, especially under the National Technical Committee, we have representation. Apart from the government institutions, we have the academia, we have the private sector, we have the civil society, and we also have representation from the youth. So the policy has also provided provisions that we could establish expert working group working under the National Technical Committee. So in line with the focus on adaptation, we have the expert working group on adaptation that was established. And this is the expert working group that we have been working with in the NAP process, and also in the formulation of our BURs and also the first BTR. So in terms of M&D, the policy entrusted the responsibility in the Department of Economic Planning and Development as a custodian for monitoring and evaluation. So the expectation is that through the respective line ministries, they are supposed to provide reports to the Department of Economic Planning and Development, and they consolidate to develop national reports on various aspects. But in terms of climate change, what we have noted is that there's always been a challenge in terms of inadequate mainstreaming of climate change issues in the various sectors, and also the issue of data gaps has always been a challenge. So in the past, every time when we want to develop national communications and also the BUR, the BTR, we have been relying normally on consultants that have worked on our behalf to collect data information and also develop these reports. So moving forward, learning from these challenges, we have been able to develop what we are calling an enhanced transparency unit within the department. The idea is for this unit to work together with the economic planning and development, and also its main responsibility is to facilitate reporting at international level. That's production of the national communications to the UNFCCC. So we expect that through this unit, we should be able to work together with the line ministries, develop templates to facilitate reporting, and under the NAP process, we have also worked with the line ministries to come up with adaptation indicators. The idea was to ensure that the indicators that we developed, they come from the line ministries, and they are able to generate reports from the indicators that they provided. Because during the consultations, one of the key issues that we noted that the initial proposed indicators, some sectors were able to pinpoint to say, no, currently we are not able to report on this area. Maybe we put this kind of indicators. So we have a strong belief that with the indicators that we have developed under the NAP, we should be able to get reports, and also issues of data should not be a problem when it comes to data collection and also reporting under the NAP process. So as Gift has indicated, we are still in the process to finalize our NAP, but we are quite advanced because we have now a draft NAP, and also we have developed a draft monitoring and reporting framework for the NAP. So these documents under the MR framework, we have a number of indicators and various sectors. We have, I think, about should be seven sectors. We are looking at agriculture, that's crops and livestock, infrastructure, energy, water resources, forestry, ecosystems. We are looking at fisheries and aquaculture, social protection and inclusion, education, and capacity development. So we believe that once this is finalized, we should be able to integrate within the system that we are developing under the enhanced transparency unit to ensure that we are able to build the capacity of the various sectors to ensure that they periodically report on adaptation issues. So in terms of NM&D, that's where we are. And our expectation is that once the enhanced transparency unit is fully operational, I think we should be able to have improvements in terms of monitoring and reporting. And just to add on that, we are also in the process of developing a climate change management bill. So through this, our expectation is that the coordination structures, the reporting arrangements, institutional arrangements, all these will be strengthened once we have this climate change law in place, because it will ensure that respective institutions are able to periodically report on the indicators that will come out from the NAP itself. So I think considering the time, maybe I could stop there. If there are some issues that might need more information, more clarification, I'm able to provide. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Gomani, for this insightful on how you have built or how you are building systems for sustainable reporting on adaptation. I think it is very interesting to learn on how different countries at different stages, and how even at where you are able to actually report, but also you are able to bring stakeholders together, start on how you can build sustainable systems. And I think that is very interesting for us to really share and appreciate that at different stages, there's something that can be done to build systems. I would like to take this opportunity to invite Liberia. We apologize about time, but you had really prepared a lot. As you may see that this is like our second engagement as we come to the close of the year. So we thought that we'd really share, and I would like to take this opportunity to invite Liberia to share their insight on how they are also building their systems for sustainable adaptation reporting. I hope it will be very brief so that we don't overshoot on time. Thank you so much. And Arthur, the floor is
Yes.
yours.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Sheila, I know a lot has been said. Again, I wouldn't want to go over time. My name is Arthur Becker. I'm the Director for the Department of Multilateral Environmental Agreements at the Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia, and also the NAP focal point for Liberia. So just quickly, we developed a MEL framework for climate change adaptation in 2022, and this support was provided by the NAP Global Network. The development of our MEL framework was informed by the national adaptation plans of the country, which runs over a period of 10 years, 2020 to 2030. The Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia is the central coordinating body for adaptation, especially as it relates to M&E in Liberia. And the framework was developed. The framework was subsequently operationalized. It brought together M&E officers across different government ministries and agencies, particularly sectors that are reflective of adaptation needs, priority needs. Our national adaptation plans takes into consideration 6 climate-sensitive sectors, which includes waste, energy, fisheries, coastal zones, agriculture, forestry. Those are just to name a few of the sectors, but they are 6 in number. The supporting institutions that are complementing the efforts in terms of adaptation interventions, especially around M&E, include those 6 priority sectors that I've identified. We also have the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning playing a very crucial role. Their role is basically to track financing flows, especially for adaptation, and also climate public expenditures, including the tracking of climate finance at the national level. We also have the Liberia Institute for Statistics and Geoinformation Services, which helps to provide support for advisory and data services. And then we also have county government officials at the county level also involved. We have youth, we have women, we have the private sector who are also involved. The policy that informs all of this is the National Policy, Climate Change Policy and Response Strategy of the country, which was launched in 2018 and provides that policy basis for coordination and the mechanism for climate change adaptation at the national level. The NAP itself, under Chapter 6 of the National Adaptation Plans, calls for the formalization of tracking and feedback mechanisms, which is also a supporting strategy or policy document that supports adaptation M&E. Moreover, there is a NAP communication strategy that links the M&E system with reporting at both domestic and international level. And then in terms of the objectives of our system, just lastly, because of time, the adaptation on M&E system in Liberia is designed based on several key objectives, which I would just want to run through quickly. First and foremost, to be able to track progress over time, to also assist in informing decisions and learning, to support the country in reporting, and obviously in terms of accountability and transparency processes, and on the overall to provide institutional capacity building. So there's a lot that has been done. The system has been operationalized. We are now working with the government line ministries and agencies. We have a sectorial coordination mechanism in terms of adaptation M&E at the national level. So it's a whole of government approach. It's a whole of involving different actors as well, such as the private sector, such as youth, civil society in this process. So this is just in a nutshell what Liberia has been able to do in terms of our M&E framework. We are also endeavoring to establish indicator tracking tools for all of the sectors. We were able, through the support of the NAP Global Network, to develop an indicator tracking tool just for the agricultural sector. But we are hoping by 2026, the rest of the 5, the NAP sectors will have been able to develop indicator tracking tools so that it helps us to track progress over time in terms of what we are doing in terms of the implementation of our national adaptation plans. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the insightful and really helping us to understand in a very short time how you are building systems, how you have been able to coordinate stakeholders around adaptation reporting. And I think it's a very good learning point. So we have come to the end of this webinar. In case you have any questions or you need to follow up with countries that you feel that you can collaborate with or learn from, you can always reach out to us, and of course we shall get to the country and we get you learning in our next year's work plan. Just to let you know, we shall be preparing several peer learning, and please reach out to us if you need to learn from another country to demonstrate to you on how they have been able to build these systems. We are always here to serve you. So I will take this opportunity to share the evaluation and feedback Menti, and I will kindly request that you get the instructions, the QR code, and also the code so that you can be able to give us your feedback. The Menti code, I have pasted it in the chat. We shall be glad to get your feedback so that we can improve such learning experiences together. Your feedback is usually variable, and we read and put it in consideration to implement our next learning session. So the code for today is 82650937. Go to your browser, type in www.menti.com, or you can scan the QR code to give us your feedback. But also, if you have any questions, you can always put in the chat, or we can always reach out to us to give you feedback. Thank you so much for those of you who have been able to log into the Menti. Let me go back briefly to the instructions, www.menti.com. The code is 82650937, or you can even go to the chat for this webinar. I have put in the link. Follow the link and put the code to be able to access the Menti. Thank you so much. One of the questions is, how satisfied are you with this webinar? I can see a few that have been able to give us feedback are saying that they were very satisfied and satisfied. Please go ahead and give us your feedback, your genuine feedback. It is very useful to us. As I wait for more participants to give us feedback, we can go to the next question. How relevant was this webinar? I'm glad that most of you, this is very relevant to your work, and we hope that you have been able to learn 1 or 2 things to implement at national level. And then, which other transparency topics are you interested in? Someone is still saying reporting on adaptation, identification of indicators, and MRV systems. We shall be having these learning sessions in our next year's work plan. And please, if you have any other sessions that you're interested in, please reach out to us. And then, do you have any other comments? Great webinar. Please share the presentations. Yes, we shall share the presentation. Help you go to the platform. I'll stop sharing. I hope I'm still on.
Yes, you are.
I hope I'm. Yeah, my network was telling me that it's very weak. I'm happy that I'm still on. Thank you so much. I would like to take this opportunity to thank colleagues who were able to make presentation, gift my colleagues Lajana, the network members who have been able to join from Asia and the Caucasus, and then also Susan. Thank you so much, countries Serbia, Malawi, and Liberia that were able to share with us, and also those countries like Zimbabwe and other members from Tanzania, Seychelles that were able to participate. It was really very insightful, and thank you so much. See you in our network meeting on the 16th. Please join, do not miss out. You can put on your cameras and say bye to us. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheila, for great moderation, and have a great afternoon to everyone. See you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.